Are you worried you're not going to be able to get your Mexican residency through financial solvency? As each year they keep increasing the threshold for how much you need to have or make per month, per year, having savings increases. Do you find that your Mexican dream is just, well, a dream?
No! God, please, no! No!
Well, guys, don't worry. You know me, I got a solution for you guys. But before I present that solution, I want to let you guys know why it is that the financial solvency requirements is so expensive these days. And it's just going to continue getting expensive as each and every year passes. So, with that said, welcome back, guys, to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about why is it that the financial solvency requirements are so expensive? Is it only because they want rich immigrants, rich foreigners moving out here to Mexico?
Bruh.
Well, spoiler alert. Yeah, it is. That's a big reason as to why that is. But I'm going to tell you guys, again, spoiler alert again, the reality is that it's always been that way. The thing is that things have changed throughout the years. And this is not 2018 anymore. This is 2025, 26, or whenever you're watching this, all right? So the reality is that, well, back in the day, Mexico was a very undesirable place. And many people, they were just looking into retiring in Mexico. Again, just a few of you guys out there. Nobody was really looking into moving to Mexico or anything like that. Again, most people were just looking into maybe perhaps retiring in Mexico because, well, it was very accessible. It was very inexpensive. And for a lot of you guys out there, well, the whole idea of retiring in Mexico meant that you could retire like a king or queen. But as you guys know, times have changed. And now, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of you guys out there that are looking into moving to Mexico. And well, guess what? As you guys are looking into the most important part of the move to Mexico, which is residency, you guys are finding out that you're in for a rude awakening as to what the requirements are in order to get that residency. Now, granted, for a lot of you guys out there in the audience, this is not a big deal. You guys can definitely meet those requirements. And, well, again, you're just watching this because you want to know why that is. But for a lot of you guys out there, well, this is a problem. And, again, I was one of those people when I moved out here in 2018. Well, guess what? I did not meet the financial requirements back then, and I definitely don't meet them today. All right. But how was I able to get my residency? Well, I was able to get my residency through marriage. And there's many ways in which you can get that residency. Okay. So again, I got a solution. We'll talk about that later. We got many solutions, right? We'll bring those up later on in the show. But at the end of the day, we're here to discuss, why is it that, getting your residency through financial solvency is just so difficult these days, or at least that's the way it seems. Well, first of all, we got to just start off with the fact. The reality is that if you're getting your residency through financial solvency at a consulate, well, you're just buying your residency. It's as simple as that. And so, depending on who you are out there, obviously, if you've been to Mexico many times, you have ties to Mexico, one shape, form, or another, those financial requirements that they look for at the consulate, well, they vary, as you guys know. A lot of you guys are always shopping around for the different consulates as to, which has the lowest requirements and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of variables that go into it. Again, it's not just the income threshold, but again, it helps if you have a house in Mexico or or some sort of business ties or something like that. But again, that's not what we're talking about here in today's show. The reality is that, well, you're buying your residency. That's it. It's as simple as that. Because for many of you guys out there, you're looking into getting and securing that residency before you even step foot into Mexico. And well, the reality is that if you're an immigrant, you're escaping your situation in your home country, well, then guess what? Residency is not necessarily at the top of the list. You're just looking to get out and find somewhere to land. All right. And so for a lot of you guys out there, you guys are now starting to find out really quickly, you're getting that rude awakening that you're immigrants. That's it. You're immigrants. And so for a lot of you guys out there, well, you guys have to go through the steps that every immigrant has to go through in just about every single country out there. And what that means is that, well, first of all, you have to go to that country. And then once you go to that country, you have to take certain steps. Again, it depends on what path you want to take. You have to take certain steps in order to secure residency, in order to stay living in that country. And it's the same for Mexico and like I said, most countries out there in the world. All right. Just like you can also buy your residency in most countries in the world. You can even buy citizenship. Okay. From what I understand, they're selling citizenships in the USA for like $1 million or something like that. But hey, that's not what this video is about. So again, the reality is that, as I mentioned earlier, Mexico, just like any other country out there, they want rich immigrants. Okay. And so that is why they put that threshold so high. All right. And again, for a lot of you guys out there, you say, or, you get upset. You mention the fact that why is the income threshold so high? That's, the 1% of Mexico. That is extremely high. They only want the rich. Well, yeah, if you're buying your residency, if you're just going to the consulate to get your residency, all right, well then, yeah, you're basically buying it. So of course, they want to make sure that you got money. It's as simple as that. But if you're just a regular immigrant thinking about moving to Mexico, well, you have to find another solution, just like I did, just like many people have. All right. Again, you got to remember that Mexico receives a lot of immigrants, just like the USA. In fact, they're receiving more immigrants today, all right, as of right now, than the USA probably is. All right. Again, they're deporting people in the USA and they're welcoming people here in Mexico. And that's been going on for years. All right. And with that said, again, how do these immigrants, all these immigrants that are coming from all over the world that don't even have a bucket to piss in, all right? Pardon my French, at the end of the day, how did they get their residencies? Well, again, they got their residencies through many different avenues, all right? But they've all been able to get your residency. So what makes you think that you can't also get your residency? It doesn't matter if you're coming from the USA, Canada, or somewhere in Europe. Now, unfortunately, the reality is that the USA is not what it used to be. Canada is not what it used to be. And so because of that, well, your currency is not what it used to be. All right. The situation is not what it used to be in the sense that, well, now you're looking, okay, into relocating and moving to Mexico instead of, well, Mexicans moving to your country. And now you're having to deal with the fact that, well, you're going to be dealing with the same exact things that those immigrants were dealing with in your country. Now you're dealing with those things out here. You're an immigrant. You can call yourself an expat. You can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. I understand. Okay. It is what it is. We've talked about it on the channel. But at the end of the day, you're an immigrant. That's it. It's as simple as that. And so what that means is that now you really have to think about it as to whether or not you want to move to Mexico or not. All right. It's not simply, I'm going to go to the consulate, buy my residency. I'll go to Mexico, check it out, and see how it goes. Those days are over for many of you guys out there. All right. Now the reality is that, well, if you want to come to Mexico, you're going to have to come out here on a 180-day, FMM, all right, tourist permit. Again, I'll link the videos at the end of that and how to get that. It's very easy. Again, if you're an American or Canadian, you just cross the border and you're in. All right. You already got your visa. You already got everything. Just make sure you have a valid passport. Okay. Otherwise, you're not going to get any residency no matter what. At the end of the day, as I was saying, you guys out there are now just going to have to come into Mexico, okay, with your 180-day FMM, tourist permit. And then, well, you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do. All right. Now, again, it always helps, to have a game plan before you make it out here. All right. Because you should have a game plan. But at the end of the day, all right, you're going to have to do just like every other immigrant. Now, again, some of you guys out there can secure a residency visa simply by securing a job over here in Mexico. So there's certain steps, certain things that some of you guys can do before you move to Mexico. I know some of you guys don't want to just move to Mexico and then figure it out. But the reality is that, well, again, it's not necessarily like, hey, you're going to come out here with no game plan and again, you'll figure it out. The reality is that you have to have some sort of game plan. Even me, even my crazy ass, when I moved out here, sight unseen, with my situation, I still had residency in the back of my head. And as the months passed, okay, and my 180-day visa was coming to an end, I started to panic. Once it came to an end, all right, and I was living out here on an expired visa, I was definitely in panic. All right. But that was basically, well, because I didn't have any information out there about how the reality of what that life meant. All right. But as the years have gone on, and again, I was able to resolve my own issue. Again, even get married and get my permanent residency, and soon to get my Mexican citizenship. And not only have I been able to learn from my mistakes, but I've been able to also bring you guys along for the ride. And many of you guys have also, again, learned from the mistakes. And many things have happened again in the 7 plus, almost 8 years that I've been living out here in Mexico, and that includes a lot of changes to getting your residency. So again, just to add some more context to why I'm making these shorter videos, talking about information such as why is Mexican residency so expensive? Because the reality is that for many of you guys out there, well, you guys have a lot of misinformation out there, and unfortunately for many people out there, well, you guys think that your Mexican dream is over before it even starts. And residency is one of those problems. Again, safety is another problem. Cost of living is another problem. There's many problems, again, which I discuss in detail on my channel. Again, not only do I have videos like this, I got longer videos, and I got all kinds of videos on the channel. And so again, just to reiterate, many years ago, many people just didn't want to come to Mexico. It was just retirees. All right. And for many retirees that had a pension plus a retirement, plus Social Security, plus whatever. I mean, yeah, meeting those financial solvency requirements were extremely easy. And so, not only were they easy, but they were a lot lower. And well, they were, putting more money in the bank. And for many of them, well, for many retirees out there, well, they just looked at Mexico like, hey, they can live like a king or queen out here instead of, well, how they're going to retire in Florida, for example.
Bruh.
And so that's the thing. And so that's changed. The dynamics have changed a lot. The inquiries into getting residency were a lot lower back in the day, again, just like 10 years ago. But now the inquiries are a lot higher, and there's so many people out there that, again, are looking into getting the residency. And when they're looking into seeing what the financial requirements are, well, again, their Mexican dream bubble burst. And before they know it, they're just discouraged, and they don't even look into, not just moving to Mexico, but just moving abroad in general. And the reality is that, well, there are options. There are many options out there, and don't get discouraged. Like I said, there's a lot of truths out there, and there's a lot of misinformation. There's all kinds of stuff out there, and not everyone is in the same boat. Not everybody's in the same situation. We're all in different situations. All right. And so I'm making these videos for the people out there that are in the situation that, sure, you might be comfortable. You might make enough money to, live a very, very comfortable life out here in Mexico. But for whatever reason, you just don't meet the requirements, the income requirements, because you don't make that much money. You might only make $3,000. And so, again, that's the thing. At the end of the day, there are options. All right. And if you want it bad enough, you can get it. All right. That dream to live and retire and just have your life out here in Mexico, can become a reality. So again, please, guys, don't become discouraged. Again, there are options, there's solutions out there. I understand that not all of us can afford to buy our residencies, but we can definitely afford to move to Mexico and get that residency eventually. So I know for a lot of you guys out there, you guys might still be discouraged as to, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to get my residency? Because again, I don't qualify for financial solvency. I can't buy it. I can't afford it. I'm just a poor immigrant. So what can I do, Jose? What is my solution? Well, again, your solution, there are many solutions. Okay. So we're going to go through it real quick. Number one, you can do something as easy as just get married. All right. What happened to me? Well, I found, my sweetheart, and we were dating, and well, I had my situation. We got married. I got my papers, and well, 6.5, 7 years later, we're still married. So that's how I was able to get my residency. And well, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Some of you guys have done something very similar. Another solution, again, very similar to this one, is family unification. For many of you guys out there, you guys are very lucky, and well, you guys might have some family in Mexico. One of your parents might have been Mexican. You might be Mexican. The reality is that, for a lot of you guys out there, in fact, like over 30 million of you guys out there, or more, you guys have this option. Okay, and it's not that difficult. It's actually extremely easy to do. All right, and so you can just get your, again, not residency. In your case, you're going to get your citizenship. So there's for a lot of you guys out there, you guys have the solution right there. You don't have to worry about anything. You can just get it through family unification. You'd be surprised. Do some digging. Another solution is, again, work permit. Okay, for a lot of people out there, well, again, you might be working for some sort of corporation in the USA. They might have headquarters, or they might have some sort of situation out here in Mexico. You can just transfer, ask for a transfer, again, apply for the job, out here in Mexico. And, well, simply put, if you get the job, they'll give you the permit. It's super easy, for at least for them, on the side of the employer. It's very easy, and they'll be able to get you not only your work permit, but you'll also be able to get temporary residency. And eventually, you can turn that temporary residency into permanent residency. So that's another way, another path to residency. Another thing that some of you guys can do, which is what I was planning on doing, is just going on visa runs. So you can just go on infinite visa runs until eventually you can find a solution to your residency. And many times what happens is that, well, if you do enough visa runs and you're already living out here, well, they just, basically prompt you and they get you into the immigration office so you can get your residency. All right. So, like I said, and again, in the years prior, we've had programs like the RNE program and things like that. And we plan on having those programs in the future, where if you're one of those people out there that's just going on visa run after visa run after visa run, well, you'll be able to get your residency through that way, again, through a RNE type program. Another thing that you can do is that you can seek asylum. Now, this is not necessarily a popular option anymore because, of all the immigration crises, that's been happening, throughout the years. And so a lot of people were seeking asylum and getting the residency that way. I'm not talking about Americans or Canadians. I'm talking about like every other country. So, well, what they've done here in Mexico is that, well, they've kind of like almost eliminated that option, and they just prompted to just, well, giving people a temporary residency under some other means. All right. So again, that's an option. It's out there. So again, those are all the options. I just kind of read through them really quickly. But guess what, guys? I made a video detailing, all of the options. All right. But before we go, again, if you like this kind of content, I really appreciate it if you like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of these videos. I got tons of videos. And again, if you want information on moving to Mexico, living in Mexico, check out the rest of the channel. All right. Now, again, if you want to know all of your residency options, then please click on this video right here that I'm going to be linking at some point at the end of this one, and hopefully you can get your residency through one of these options. So again, thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.